You are listening to KZYX 90.7 FM Philo, KZYZ 91.5 FM Willits and Ukiah, 88.1 FM Fort Bragg. Altogether, we make up Mendocino County Public Broadcasting member-supported community radio. We also stream live on the web at kzyx.org. Support for KZYX comes from our members and Mariposa Market in Willits, announcing new extended hours, weekdays 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., deli window 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., and weekends 9 to 5, deli window 9 to 4 p.m., and the bulk aisle is open as well. MariposaMarket.com and 707-459-9630 for store news, deli menu, and to place curbside orders.
Mind if I sit down? Everything you pray for, everything you play for me.
Hi, and welcome to Be More Now. My name is Blake Moore, and tonight I'm interviewing sound healing author, teacher, researcher, and practitioner David Gibson. We'll be discussing, among many things, vibrational sound healing and its connection to science, health, consciousness, nature, and the universe, now and in the future. But first, here's The Frequency of Love, a soundscape created by David Gibson. So, before I bring on David Gibson, I want to tell you a bit about his background. There's a lot to say, but I'll just give you a brief overview. David Gibson is the founder and director of the Globe Sound Healing Institute in the San Francisco Bay Area and online, offering individual classes and state-approved certification programs in sound healing and therapy, and also audio recording. David has written the #1 selling books in both fields of audio recording, The Art of Mixing, The Art of Producing, and Sound Healing, The Complete Guide to Sound Healing. He is also a top-selling producer of sound healing music. His music is in many hospitals around the country, including Boston General and UC Medical Center. He also runs a sound therapy center at the Institute and online, offering 15 types of sound healing treatments. David has produced 9 international sound healing conferences and is also the founder of the Sound Healing Research Foundation, which is researching sound for pain, sleep, PTSD, autism, ADHD, dementia, anxiety, depression, and grief. He has now set up the Medical Sound Association with a group of doctors and sound therapists to figure out how to cure every disease in the world with sound, music, and vibration. David has also set up the Sound Education Center for Children and has created over 2,500 exercises for children based on all the books on brain development for children at every age level. You're about to listen to a conversation that was held earlier this week.
So David Gibson, it's really a pleasure to have you with me here on Be More Now. Do you want to start with providing a bit of your background, who you are, and how you got interested in sound and vibrational healing?
Okay, yeah. I actually started out as a recording engineer, and I worked with a lot of major groups like James Brown's band and the Doobie Brothers. And then I started seeing the magic coming across from different musicians. I would get chills and goosebumps. Sometimes the room would turn purple, and I'm like, whoa. How can we reproduce this at will? So I then added on, we had the whole recording school for many years, and then we added on the sound healing, about 20 years ago. And from there, it's really gotten very detailed as to exactly how sound works, not only for like sound baths or concerts where you just play instruments and crystal bowls and voice and Tibetan bowls and even tuning forks and didgeridoo, right, to get people blissed out, and miracles often happen. But now it's actually gotten very specific as to medical treatments with sound and vibration for specific issues, everything from PTSD to cancer. So we set up a whole research foundation to focus on that, and a medical sound association as well. So it's really gotten very specific, although we're still accessing source and doing the woo-woo thing and getting really high as well.
So I want to get back to your sound recording. So you're doing all this stuff, and were other people noticing it as well? Was it just you? You start talking about it together, and you said, I have to take this to the next level. How did that actually shift into what you're doing now? Could you still do recording or no?
Yeah, I still do recording. We even teach recording at the school. Besides the sound healing, we have the whole college in Sausalito, although we have all our classes online as well. Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of just shifted organically. I just started doing my own recordings only about 15 years ago, and that's when it really, I just started getting more interested in exactly different specific types of healing and CDs for different issues. Also, what helped, was teaching my recording classes. I had students come in with all these different ideas that they would come up with, and I learned so much from them as well. Besides, I also wrote the #1 selling books in audio recording, The Art of Mixing and The Art of Producing. They are the books used in the field in every college just about around the world to teach audio recording. And I wrote the main book in sound healing, The Complete Guide to Sound Healing. So I have a really unique perspective as to the combination of audio recording and all the parameters of music and exactly how that can light you up physically, mentally, emotionally, and even spiritually. right?
Yeah, that's I think the thing, that you're such a synthesizer, and your ability to bring people together, experts, the research, your own discoveries, and you are probably one of the most knowledgeable people in the broad view and the bringing everyone together in sound healing.
Yeah, I've done like 9 international conferences, and I've learned so much from all the different people there. Also, we have 24 instructors, and I've just learned so much from them. So, yeah, I really do have like an unusual, broad perspective. A lot of people in the field of sound healing are focused in one area or the other, in very specific areas. It's really very complex and very wide-ranging field. And I've kind of done a survey of what everything what all is going on out there, and then look at where we can move any different area forward.
Yeah, that's what's so great. It's like your ability to mix music in an interesting way is the mixing of the sound healing and bringing everyone together. Like, you understand how all the components actually create the one thing, is what I always think of when I think of you. So
yeah.
How would you define sound healing, just for those who don't really know what that means?
It's really actually the use of sound, music, and vibration for a full range of different issues physically, whether it's for any physical issue or pain management, mentally for brainwave entrainment, to use binaural beats to entrain the brain into different brainwave states, delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma, for different issues, and emotionally for releasing stuck emotions and transforming negative beliefs, and spiritually for accessing, more gratitude, compassion, love, the frequency of your soul, and ultimately the frequency of source, which I see as all frequencies. So it's really the use of sound in all those areas, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The most basic way to describe it is it's about creating consistent, stable vibrations, as opposed to the chaotic vibrations of fear, or anxiety, or anger, right, or pain, or stress. Versus the vowels, which are consistent and stable waveforms, like when the body is healthy, every single part of the body is humming consistently instead of chaotically. So it's really all about getting us back to that stable, consistent vibration, which is the definition of peace, right? Peace is a frequency humming consistently. So that's kind of the basis behind it all. But then you can get really specific as to the frequency of every cell, the frequency of every organ, the frequency of all nutrients. I mean, you can go into nature and look at, the frequency of the pollutants in nature. So it gets very detailed from just stable, consistent.
And how are these frequencies determined?
Oh, boy. Well, God came up with right? Well, it's interesting because, in the classes we hand out 10,000 frequencies for just about everything you can imagine, and nobody agrees with anybody as to what is what. In the body, here's the problem. The frequencies are most likely completely different from person to person, right? And that's why there's no set frequency. Now, in
and
nature...
that's because everyone's sized differently, and we all have different... some of our stomachs are bigger, our organs are... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, but there are specific frequencies in nature that are definitive. And, science often describes things based on its frequency or vibratory rate. All of the elements are actually just different frequencies, different vibrational rates of each of the elements, right? So it's actually pretty simple when you actually get into it scientifically to find the frequency of something. In the body, what you can do is simply play a tone generator and sweep through all the frequencies. And when you hit the resonant frequency of something, it will actually start vibrating way more, kind of like the wine glass, or a crystal bowl for that matter. Mm-hmm. It's like you hit the resonant frequency and it sings, right? And so it's easy to find the frequency. Now, what's really interesting is there's a guy named John Stuart Reed who invented the cymoscope, and this actually shows different mandala patterns of water droplets whenever you play certain frequencies to the water droplet. And there's some really cool visuals. It's called cymatics, CYMATICS. And he's now got an electron microscope device, or has worked with it, that is, that will actually show you the entire harmonic frequency content of a cell when you actually test it, right? And so based on physics, there's two ways to go. First of all, if you find a cell that's healthy and you play its frequency or combinations of frequencies to it, it will make it healthy again, right? If it's not healthy, if you play its correct frequency to it. And that's like the basis of the new medicine. But then, if you play a frequency to a cell or combination of frequencies that is a bad cell, like cancer, and turn the volume up, you can explode it. This is exactly like ultrasound on kidney stones, right? They find the resonant frequency, turn the volume up, and kablooey. So with this device now, we can now find the exact resonant frequency of every cell, which means we can add them up and find the frequency of every organ, every part of the body, and destroy cancer 100% of the time. It's like the potential here is just huge, just really huge, right?
And do you feel that there is interest in the medical field to really push this forward, and there's a desire to understand sound healing and vibrational healing?
There is and there isn't, right? Yeah. Of course, the pharmaceutical companies aren't exactly excited about this, right? Right? But yes, there's many doctors. We have, in the Medical Sound Association, we have 400 doctors and sound therapists now working to figure out precisely how to heal every disease in the world. What's happening is that, we've had a lot of doctors that have taken our program, but doctors are seeing the potential now, especially now that the opioid crisis happened and everybody was looking for alternatives was one thing. But here's the other cool thing, is hospitals, certain hospitals, especially Kaiser, is getting really interested. And the reason that Kaiser is interested is because they are an insurance agency as well. So they're looking to reduce costs, not like most hospitals, right? So they're more on board to actually helping bring this forward from the people I've talked to than anybody. So it gives me hope of being able to bring it through the hospitals because, if I come up with a cure for cancer myself, I may have to move out of the country, right? Or be a little scared, right?
Yeah.
But when you get the hospitals, leading it, then it's really cool. So I see a path for it actually happening.
I want to take a minute and remind you that you're listening to Be More Now. I'm your host, Blake Moore, and I'm speaking with David Gibson, sound healer, researcher, teacher, and author.
The other thing that's been happening is we've got a guy we make actual sound lounges, which are tables and lounges that have subwoofers embedded in them that vibrate you intensely. And there's a guy in Colorado that's using them for first responders. He's actually got contracts with 75% of the police and fire stations there. And if they have a crisis, he goes out and puts them on the sound lounge. And a crisis means about to commit suicide, right? And so he saved 150 lives now in the last year.
hold on. I want to get this clear. You're saying he drives out with a van. He's got equipped with a sound lounge inside, and it's kind of the triage for someone who's suicidal or first. Okay, just want to make sure I'm straight.
So there's a doctor that he's working with that has seen how effective it is, who is the head of 75 ERs in Colorado. And so he now wants to put the sound lounges in the ER for the nurses and the doctors there who are, stressed out.
Wow.
So there's another path of getting the doctors really interested to get rid of their anxiety and their issues and their pain, which will then help bring it into the hospitals as well.
Yeah, in a sense, and we all have really understood in the last few years the crisis on our first responders. So and we don't really quite have anything effective that we know of, mainstream-wise. I mean, obviously everyone's found their own techniques, but this is a really great way to break through. Because if it works there, like you say, it can work anywhere, right? I mean, that's the idea.
Right. It's amazing. Wow. There's only one. I mean, Ed's company in Colorado is the only company that actually takes care of first responders in all the states. He's the only company that's set up in any state. I mean, they have little things here and there for first responders, but not. I mean, because it's tricky because they don't want any stigma. They don't want to go to a normal hospital, especially not to a mental ward, right?
Right.
So it's really a major problem. And so what we're looking is we've got funding coming in to set up this whole first responder program for California first, then all the states across the U.S., and then we want to bring it into the war zones, right?
Right.
It's just so effective.
And what's Ed's name? What's the name of his company? Is there a way that people, if they wanted to find out more, could? Or
Ed's company?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. His name is Ed Rupert, though. It's Rupert. If you do first responders Ed Rupert, you'll probably find it.
So that's the thing, too, also about you, David, is your brain is connected in so many neural pathways to many, many people doing this incredible work. You just finished a sound healing conference for the brain.
Oh, my God.
Want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah. There's the science of brainwave entrainment, where you can use two frequencies, create a rhythm to entrain the brain into delta for sleep, theta for creativity, alpha for presence and learning, and beta for overcoming ADD, is really definitive. And people have kind of gone off the deep end with it. And it's really cool. There's this one guy, that Jeffrey Martin, who has mapped out all the different levels of consciousness there are based on EEG maps of the brain. So he can show, where people are at. And we're talking really high states of consciousness where people are just blissed out, one with the universe and universal love all the time, right? And so they are now, it's like we've now proven these higher states of consciousness scientifically. But he's got whole techniques and workshops to advance you to the next level. And he's come up with frequencies for microtubules in the brain using ultrasound that will activate these higher states of consciousness in labs like repeatedly. Right? It's like gone off the deep end, right? To be able to access. And then there's people that are working with anxiety and depression and PTSD, dementia. I mean, we're looking at frequencies to dissolve the plaque in the brain for dementia. And we've got now a whole program. We've actually hooked up with the largest dementia company in Northern California. We have a whole detailed program for dementia that the Medical Sound Association and the degree students have come up with over many years. And so the conference, it's just amazing. We just finished it, but there's free replay for the next 2 weeks, and then it's just $97 if you want to download it. But if you go,
and it's a 4-day conference, right? 4 days worth of teaching.
Yeah. globesoundhealingconference.com/brain, capital B on the brain. But if you just go to soundhealingconference.com, you'll get there. there's a link to it.
I watched a number of them, and they're amazing. And just it's so exciting to see how healing is so much closer than we thought.
We could completely have no more anxiety and depression in 10 years. We could have no more PTSD. We could overcome dementia completely. I mean, seriously. And it's like unbelievable, really. Not to mention that we can get people really high and connected to nature and source, right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's also, you founded the Globe Institute of Sound Healing. You've got the school. You've got a certification program. You're training a lot of people, and basically you're putting all sorts of individuals out into the world, and doctors and healers and just people that want to work on healing themselves.
Right.
So you're training, how many people have you probably?
Oh, we've taught thousands over the last 20 years.
Thousands.
We've got, a few hundred per year. And right now we are doing some classes at the Institute in Sausalito, but it's limited to 10. And the rest is online, or you can do the whole thing online. And it works really well online with the live instructors. And it's really life transforming. It's really about how the universe works based on vibration, right? Mm-hmm. Learning that, and then also a lot of skills that you could actually use as in your work or as a career. And then also we just get people really high and really still over and over and over, so that becomes the norm, which is really good for you physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually.
Right, and trains the brain to be able to find those states on its own just through witnessing others doing it. Yeah. And I know you've been involved with Boston University and the UC Medical Center, so you want to talk about that?
Yeah, with at UMass in Boston actually paid us a bunch of money to create a whole series of CDs for sleep and anxiety and depression. And so I have to tell you, a lot of people, it's really funny that I'll tell you about the UC Med, that a lot of people, still think that this is kind of woo-woo. Yeah, it's like, we just play a bunch of bowls, get high, and, it's kind of weird. My brother in Massachusetts, he said, what the hell are you doing this crap for? This is ridiculous, right? And then my brother gets prostate cancer, and he goes into UMass in Boston, and they're advertising my CDs on the TV. And so he starts talking to me, and I tell him all about the science, and now he's totally into it, right?
Oh, wow. Wow. That's a funny thing, right? People have to hear it from the perceived expert to recognize that it's, that legitimacy has to come the other direction.
That's right. Yeah. It's really a problem as well, in the field, because a lot of people do think of it as kind of just like kind of woo-woo, and they don't realize there's very specific physics to it. I was a physics major at UC Berkeley, but the physics of vibration, when you get down to the cellular and organ level, is very definitive. It's not. Also, the science around brainwave entrainment is definitive as well. I mean, you can hook up EEG and see precisely what's going on with the brain when you play a rhythm, and your brain will synchronize to rhythm very quickly, right? We also have a whole series of CDs that are created with an anesthesiologist at UC Med here in San Francisco, and they're using them for not only for pre-op, before surgery, and after surgery, but during surgery, to have people in.
Oh, wow. So playing it while they're in surgery, so is it playing in the operating theater, or is it something in their head?
Yeah. Normally you have to use headphones because sometimes the doctors go to sleep.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
So they'll put, say, headphones on the patient while the surgery is being performed?
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, this has been going on for quite a while. In fact, there was a doctor that was on Dr. Oz that's been doing this for many years. It's very cool. Yeah.
And for all types of surgery, or are there specific surgeries where it's found to be better for, or what kinds of frequencies?
It's really just to really have people be in the zone more when they're actually in the surgery. So there's not, because, there's still a large part of you that's awake when you're in surgery. It's really just, it's basic relaxation, and so your system isn't freaking out as much, right? Kind of a problem with this, the whole term sound healing, because it's not really just healing. It's also, it's creating health. It's also lighting up, it could be just resonating sound with gratitude, compassion, and love. And we've run into this problem with this one project that we're working on, and that is we got a $100,000 grant to take our entire curriculum with our 24 instructors into 2 Montessori schools. And over 3 years, we created over 2,500 exercises for the kids from 3 months all the way up to 18 years, all based on the books on brain development at different age groups, right? And so we've implemented a lot of these exercises in 2 Montessori schools, and we've actually created now a website called Sound Education Center, where we have 500 exercises from kids for all ages that you can download and use. And now we're going to start doing classes. We're not setting up an official school, but we're just going to be doing free classes for kids at different age groups starting in about 2 months here.
And that will be all online, correct? Online class.
Right, exactly. And then we've actually set up a whole association called the Sound Education Association to actually refine the rest of the 2,000 exercises and then to bring it into public and private schools around the world. So we have all these major educators helping us. We have even one woman that's like the head of education in California that we've gotten contacted with, in touch with. And so I'm really excited about this because it can change the kids dramatically. And it's not just sound healing. It's, in fact, we don't even use the term sound healing. It's really sound and physics of vibration. So we go into the actual physics of not only sound but color and light and the quantum
and geometry.
World. And geometry. And also music, not as a way of becoming a professional musician, but as a way of understanding the universe and the way the body works, right? And then the most important part is emotional expression. So we're doing the social emotional part of learning with being able to express how you feel and be able to communicate feelings in a much better way. It's like as babies, we were professional sound healers. If you had anything going on, you just let it out, right? And then around 1 or 2, it's like, right? And then you get in school, and it's like, no more sound.
Right.
And we lose that God-given ability to express our emotions, which keeps us healthy, right, to keep the flow going. And so what we're doing is really keeping that going for the kids from as they grow up, so they can totally express themselves and be healthy, right? So it's just an amazing program, and to see the children already, we've got 200 hours of video, but to watch them transform, it's like not only do they love the exercises and they're getting a lot out of it physically, mentally, emotionally, but also they just can't wait to do more. So it's like inspiring learning, right? Where all of a sudden they're like excited about the next exercise. They can't wait to learn about all the frequencies of nature, all the frequencies in the body, all the frequencies that make up the whole universe, which is not woo-woo at all. It's exactly basic science. I mean, frequency is the most basic, fundamental aspect of reality there is, vibration, right?
Right. It's that exciting part about the Tao of physics we're finally starting to understand. We've really got the two places that have come together, and to be able to start that at a young age where, rather than taking the mystery away, we're not explaining it, but we're sharing it.
Right. It's like my math class. I had no idea why I was learning it. I mean, what's this about? What's the point? What's it connected to? And when you learn math and frequency and geometry based on the laws of nature, then it's all you remain connected and return to that connection throughout as you're going up. And there's no like, what?
Yeah.
Which leads to just kind of no grounding, right?
Right. Can you speak specifically to an exercise that might be used?
Yeah. You know, I mean, okay, there's a perfect one that we do in class here in the regular school, and that is to make the sound of how you feel, right?
Right.
Okay, this is how I feel, right? It's so interesting. Like, you know, in the sound healing classes, we do that every day, and people come in. I say, make the sound of how you feel, and people look at me a little weird, and then they do it, right? So in the schools with the kids, I went into the 3 to 6-year-old room, and I said, okay, make the sound of how you're feeling. They looked at me like I had two heads. Like, you know, They weren't going to do it and be weird in front of their friends, right? But then we did call and response. I said, okay, make this sound. Or actually, this one woman, she said, you know, only those two over there know how to sing. We don't really, the rest of us aren't good singers.
Oh, no.
And I said, okay, well, can you do this? And she goes, oh, yeah. And can you do this? And she goes, and can you do this? And she does it. I said, look, you're making sounds. Don't think of it as singing, right? And she's totally doing it, right? So then after doing this call and response where we're just having them make really weird, fun sounds and them giggling and everything, then we start talking about, well, this is how I was feeling yesterday. My friend was not feeling well, and I was feeling kind of sad, right? And then we start working into them being able to make the sound of how they're feeling. This is really cool, not only for the young ones, but what's really interesting is it translates directly into our work with autism and dementia. Because with the dementia, when they get into later stages, you know, words are a little bit difficult. So in the earlier stages, we're teaching them how to make the sound of how they feel. And we do the whole process of getting them comfortable with making sound again, right? Until finally they can do it. And then as they move into later stages of dementia, then they can go, it's so funny, one of the workers there, she said that, oh, yeah, Joe, he kind of just mumbles, right? And she said, one day I just started mumbling back to him, and we had a whole conversation going. It's this connection, right? And it's exactly the same with autism. It's like if you can make a nonverbal sound connection with someone, that's the whole deal, where they realize there's an actual connection going on. So you're not having to deal with words, right? So it's really cool to get this more primordial aspect of communicating, which we're born with, to be able to use it again. And it's so much easier to express emotion with sound instead of trying to put them to words.
Once again, I'd like to remind you that you're listening to Be More Now. I'm your host, Blake Moore, and I'm speaking with sound healing author, teacher, researcher, and practitioner, David Gibson.
And I love it. I mean, it's definitely something that I have found incorporating in my life, where I've always been a sound maker, and it is so helpful because sometimes the sounds I make them, I can even make them in my head, feel them, and that's good enough. Like I want to make a big loud sound, but I don't want to maybe offend the person I'm talking to or whatever, you know. And so there's a way that you can. I mean, do you believe that even in your mind you can make these sounds and it still has a feeling?
Yeah, oh yeah. You know, and I've read books of spiritual teachers that say actually making sound silently is more effective and powerful than making it out loud. Because first of all, you're learning to use your mind to actually control your own vibration, right? And so you could actually listen, once you practice a bit, you could actually listen for the frequency of your adrenals going, right? And simply mentally do a sound silently of to your adrenals, right? So when you get really good at transmitting frequencies, I mean, it's the quantum world, right? And that's well proven. And
right.
you're totally, again, using these mental vibrations to overcome the chaotic other vibrations, which is really huge right now with all of the fear, anxiety, and anger out there. I mean, to simply just, one of the easiest is just do the sound of love, right? You can just do, and you can send it to others. You can just resonate it, but it's a stable, consistent energy, right? And so you just...
And that's whatever you think the sound of love sounds like to you, right? That's
right. You can't do it wrong. That's one cool thing about sound healing. I always start the classes, I say, that you can never make a wrong or bad sound. You can't be out of pitch. It's always perfect. Because that's the biggest problem, right? People think that they can't sing. They have to do it perfect. It's like you completely get over that. So, any sound, as long as you're just running love energy, that's all that counts, right? Just running that love energy along with the sound, and then it totally entrains you or the world into that higher vibration, the more people that do it, right?
Right, and that by you doing it, you create that entrainment for other people. And I think that that's something that most people will know. That's one of the reasons why spiritual gurus are so popular, because when you go and sit with them in their field, it's their resonance, right? And everyone feels that.
Stable, consistent stillness, right? Yeah, we just go sit with them to get that stillness. It's really, when you get down to it, it's all about being peaceful, going to peace. Because peace is good for your immune system physically. It's good for all your organs. It's where you're the most creative. And it's a portal to other dimensions where you're one with the universe, right? Peace is the whole deal at every level. Right? Yeah,
peace is wellness, is healing. I had a question I want to backtrack a little bit when you talked about exploding the cancer cell. And that's something that comes up for me as, let's say someone's cancer is metastasized. And so when you can't really cut something out because it might have moved somewhere else, and they're afraid that if you might cut into the cancer and send it through the body. So do you see this ability to explode the frequency? It doesn't send the cancer cells all running through the body to go do something else. It just dissolves them, so to speak.
Yeah, I've heard that, that you have to be careful. You have all these toxins that are released when you destroy cancer cells. But I know people that have done intuitive healing on cancer and gotten rid of cancer completely, and there is no healing crisis, right? It's like when you're cutting, you're not really, it's almost like a jackhammer. You're not really going in there and exploding the cancer cells. You're actually just cutting around them, which could actually spread it into the bloodstream elsewhere because there's all types of stuff wide open where the cut is, right? But when you're actually just targeting the frequency of a specific cell, well, that frequency doesn't do anything else to any other part of the body because that part of the other parts of the body aren't that resonant frequency. It only resonates at that one frequency of whatever the cell is. Now, when it's metastasized, I could see that the tricky part is to find the frequency of each of the cells, because they mutate.
They're all different.
Yeah, but my guess, in fact, is that most of them are about the same, and there's a few that have mutated, right? So I bet if you find the core frequency, and that with this device that John has, the electron microscope, we can actually do it in real time and see what the frequencies are and explode it. But here's the problem. This is just getting rid of it physically, right? I mean, if you're still running that emotional issue that's creating it, or whatever toxins are creating it, it could easily come back. So then you got to work at the other levels as well. The good news is you'll be alive to be able to do it.
Right. You can actually perhaps do that work.
Right.
Well, I think that's
which
the
is
case.
Cool. So it's not a bad thing.
Right.
light years better than chemo or radiation. I mean, goodness gracious, we're not going to kill the rest of the body.
And do you feel that is advancing to the place where it's being used in treatment? Are there clinics and places that are actually doing that at this stage?
I don't know if people are doing it. There might be a company in Israel that's actually doing it in real time, because they actually have a ultrasound device that can actually destroy a brain tumor in real time while looking at it with MRI. It's I forget the name of the company, but if you do a search for operating room of the future, it's Insightec, INSIGHTEC. They had developed it, and this is like even 5 or 6 years ago. So I think there's places that are doing it now, but I haven't really checked it out. Right? The thing that they're not doing yet, and that is finding all the frequencies of the cancer cell. If you find, I mean, anything has multiple frequencies. It's not just one frequency. And when you find the combination of frequencies, all of them, and turn the volume up, you can use destructive resonance to explode it 100% of the time. There's the TED Talk right now with Anthony Holland, where he shows 4 different types of cancer being exploded with 4 different electromagnetic frequencies in real time. You see the video of the cells exploding on. You just do a search for Anthony Holland and TED Talk. But he says, well, we're able to destroy the cancer 30 to sometimes even 60% of the time. Well, he's only using 2 frequencies. If you find all the frequencies of that cell with this electron microscope device, I really see very clearly that we can explode 100% of the time.
That's amazing. And for those of you who are listening, I've been following all these links that David's offering, and I'm going to put all the links on the archive of the show so you can always go and find them there. Cool. Just because it's so exciting. And I also do you think that I think this is a good question because so many people have limiting beliefs, but do you think that anyone can reach a higher state of consciousness with sound and vibration, or do you need to be a lifelong meditator? You know, sometimes some of the visualizations can be challenging for people. What do you think about that? That's
interesting. Well, you know, in the whole field of non-duality, they say it's just one thought away. I mean,
right.
It really is just it. I mean, but you know, we've got neural pathways that are pretty embedded. It's the way the brain's kind of a mess, you know. Yeah, I mean, it's like it gets its patterns and it sticks to them, and it's physically embedded, right? So it's a little harder to change it when you got patterns embedded, which then actually get embedded in the whole body. But you know, spirit is really powerful, and it's never far away for anybody, right? It's really close to the surface. I mean, I've seen people like, you know, that are completely gone, and with the right words and energy, it's all of a sudden they're like in tears, or they're just lit up like a Christmas tree, right? And so I really think it's interesting though. There's another level where they talk about different levels of consciousness, and this guy Jeffrey Martin in the conference said that these different levels you actually move through to higher and higher levels, which happens to correspond to the teachings of Alice Bailey, the spiritual teacher, that says there's different initiations that you go through. And I was talking about it with Jeffrey, and I said, well, you know, sometimes I'm in bliss. I'm just like one with the universe and universal love, and then like the next day I'm growling. Right? He said, yeah, well, we kind of go across all the levels. Some people do. But, you know, you get where you're more and more consistently in a higher level. It's interesting. Mm-hmm. The highest level is where you're actually one with the universe, which can be a real problem, where some people become homeless. They don't worry about schedules anymore. Yeah.
They give away all their money. I know someone who gave away all their money. Yeah.
And Jeffrey's actually got whole workshops on how to integrate oneness into your normal daily life. I mean, it can freak some people out, you know, where they have this experience where they see we're all one, and then they come back and it's like the world sucks, right?
Right. Like, how do you, or the world doesn't suck, but maybe the way I'm living in the world sucks.
Right.
I don't want to live like this anymore, And then everybody
I'm
thinks you lost your mind. You're like, no, I found it.
It's really so. There is kind of, I feel there's kind of a progression you go through where you can consistently stay in it. But I think anybody can access. I mean, it's like anybody can access love, right? I mean, that's the basis of it all, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you think of it that way, it's like, or just do the most basic, just do gratitude, right? Gratitude for all the things in your life, right? Then that's really higher consciousness. If you think of higher consciousness not as a higher frequency, but as a stable, consistent energy, then, gratitude, compassion, love, joy, they're all just the best, right? And then there is one little trigger where you go into what most people call oneness, but it's an ecstatic state where you're kind of just connected to all, and you even disappear. And it's a well-known state now. And there's also, people always report there's universal, incredible, indescribable love there. That's like a whole nother stage, but I know people that are getting that more and more. A lot of people access it by being around people that are in that energy through their resonance, right? But also there's just even an accident can trigger it, right? Where all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I was one with the universe. I can access that completely now. But so that's a little trickier to teach to people, but it seems like it's easier these days.
Yeah, people are more and more open to finding new solutions, right? Well, we're all getting close to out of time, and I want to make sure you share your website so listeners can find out more about you.
Okay. Yeah, it's soundhealingcenter.com. We'll go to all the things we have. We've got the school, the store, the therapy center. We've got a lot of different treatments we do that we can do online. We can find your home note and do brainwave entrainment tuned to you. We also can do voice analysis where we find out exactly what's wrong with you and give you a CD to balance that out. We also have the Research Foundation, which includes the Medical Sound Association. If you know any doctors, would love to have them join, or the soundeducationcenter.com, which is where all the the stuff for the kids are as well. Oh, and we have an open house. Let's see. We have an open house. I don't know if this has aired before, but on July 11th.
And that can be found at the website.
Yes, soundhealingcenter.com. Goes to everything.
Soundhealingcenter.com. And I'll put all of that on the archive. And if there's one key message you hope listeners remember from our talk today, what is that?
It's really
You've had so many nuggets.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You have the power with your voice, with any vowel, to create this consistency. And it's just as simple. So if you're ever feeling anxiety or fear or anger or anything, which is rampant on the planet right now, right? It's hard not to get entrained into it. Simply do any vowel. Like you could you can either do it for yourself or you can send it out to the whole planet. So you could go like, okay, I'm going to send love to the whole, if you guys want to join in, send love to the whole planet with a sound now, okay? It's amazing that something that simple will just calm you.
It feels so good. Thank you, David Gibson. What a pleasure it is to talk to you. You are a master. It is just an honor that you've put so much time and effort into helping the world understand this untapped gateway that I believe you're helping to tap. So thank you for bringing us all together.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me on.
And that concludes my interview with David Gibson, sound healing author, teacher, researcher, and practitioner, and founder of the Globe Sound Institute, among many other things, David Gibson. To listen to this show again or catch past episodes, go find Be More Now on KZYX.org and click on the link to the show archives, or you can also find it on my website, BeMoreYou.net. That's the letter B, MOREYOU.net, where you can find the links mentioned in today's interview, as well as subscribe to the Be More Now Spotify podcast. And I'll be back on July 1st with San Francisco Mime Troupe music director and composer Daniel Savio. We'll be talking about the upcoming 2021 San Francisco Mime Troupe Summer Radio Series, Tales of the Resistance, Volume 2, Persistence. And tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. right here on KZYX, you can also catch Politics, a Love Story. This week, host Bob Ushansky will be talking with Colin Gerolmack about his new book, Up to Heaven and Down to Hell, Fracking, Freedom, and Community in an American Town. I want to thank you all so much for listening tonight. Go out and make the sound of what you are feeling into the night sky. And remember, consistent, stable vibration. Good night, y'all. Stay tuned for The Treehouse with W. Dan.
If I sit down, everything you pray for, everything you play for me.